Alright, what's going on, guys? So this is my review for Grand Theft Auto 5. Now let me just give a quick disclaimer that in this review I may miss on touching on a few topics just because this game is on such a grand scale and has so much content. It's almost virtually impossible for me to mention and remember everything, and I'm going to make this as compact of a review as I possibly can, even though it will be pretty lengthy. So first, let's start out with the story. Now this story is the most deepest one created by Rockstar for a Grand Theft Auto game. Now keep in mind I said for a Grand Theft Auto game. That does not mean the story is extremely deep by general standards or over complex, but it's the most well thought out Grand Theft Auto story we've ever got. There's layers to it, and there's a background story that somewhat contains a mystery. And since there are multiple main characters, that essentially means multiple stories for each character, even though some characters do seem to have a deeper story than others. So let's talk about the characters a little bit. Let's start off with Michael. Now Michael is an experienced bank robber, and he is kind of like this source of knowledge and wisdom, even though he has a lot of his own personal problems with himself and his dysfunctional family. But he is, I guess you could say, a real father figure, or that wise master figure in the game to multiple people, especially Frank. In a sense, you could say Michael was the main character out of the three because he did have the most developed, relevant story. And he's just a well-rounded character. He's a very well thought out and developed character. Now Trevor is this completely crazed, lunatic, vile, outlandish psycho. He's almost like the anti-Michael. He embodies everything that is the opposite of Michael in terms of the methods in which to accomplish anything. But it's weird because they have this like symbiotic relationship in which they absolutely need each other. And their synergy is just, amazing, really. The whole synergy of this complete team between Michael, Trevor, and Franklin just works. Now, Franklin is like the most down-to-earth, practical character of the three. He's like the thread that holds Trevor and Michael together. He's the anchor of the team, essentially. Because without him, they would just fall apart and have killed each other. And like I mentioned earlier, I really like the relationship between Michael and Franklin. Franklin is really like, I guess you could say, Michael's student in training. He's the Padawan, I guess you could say. Franklin is really ambitious, and he's just looking for a come up. He's looking for his opportunity to actually do something more, and Michael is like his pathway to actually advance his criminal career further from just being another average street hustler. Unfortunately, I would say Franklin did get the short stick when it comes to individual story and relevance, and that probably is contributed to the fact that Trevor and Michael did have a long history before. Early on in the game, his role isn't as obvious, but as you get further and further into the game, you start to see his purpose much more, and like I said, that's the anchor for this bank robbing and heist team. The supporting characters were also very well done. There were a few characters that I would say, I guess, annoyed me a little bit, that really made me feel like, wow, I really want to shoot you. But I guess that's actually a good thing that they were actually able to make me feel like that. The voice acting is really good quality. Rockstar did an amazing job with that. As we know, they went as far as hiring real gang members to do certain of these roles. Nothing seemed absolutely forced, even though some things were, emphasized and exaggerated. It still seemed very natural. So the voice acting was amazing. Now let's get into the missions, which are an extremely vital part of the game, almost the heart of Grand Theft Auto. Let me just say the missions in this game are fantastic. Now let me make it known, even if I haven't made it known enough, I did not like Grand Theft Auto 4 at all. So this game is not getting any slack from me. I am not pulling any punches when I criticize this game. I loved the missions. Of course, there were missions that were much better than others, but the missions were just, there was just so much variety. They were fun. They were creative. Rockstar really thought out of the box. You know, I don't want to make it a comparison thing, but in Grand Theft Auto 4, I did not like the game at all. I thought there was literally one mission in Grand Theft Auto 4 that stood out to me. Every other mission to me was monotonous, boring, dull. It felt like a chore playing the missions in that game. Not with Grand Theft Auto 5. I had a hard time, and I was being a vulture. I admit I was being a vulture. I was looking for problems, like in missions, feeling the same. And I really can't say that I found a mission that I felt like this. I just played an exact mission just like this. I could not find a mission like that. Maybe one or two had, you know, similar concepts or, you know, similar end games, but no, each mission was just very unique, and I love that. And for major heist, they give you the opportunity to choose how you want to tackle your missions in heist setups. And aside from main missions, there are plenty of side missions for each character to do. You can do them during the game and after the game. As far as how long the game is, I didn't exactly keep a count, but you could easily put in 60 plus hours in this game just from free roaming, side missions, and main missions combined. There's also multiple endings for the game that you get to choose from, which make it much more interesting. Just be careful on what ending you choose, I'll just say that. Now let's segue into the gameplay functionalities. Now in the Grand Theft Auto 5 world, there are plenty of activities to partake in. Just to name a good amount, and this is not even all of them, you can do sea shark races, tennis, darts, a triathlon, yoga, golf, street racing, ATV off-road racing, hunting. You could buy properties, invest in the stock market. Oh, and how could I forget? Of course, go to the strip club and find prostitutes, which is like a Grand Theft Auto pastime. The character customization is very well done. You can go to the barbershop, get different haircuts to change how your character looks, tattoos. There's plenty of clothing shops, so you can, you know, pick from what your character has in their wardrobe and what you want them to wear. And it's the same thing with car and gun customization. There is plenty that you can do to your car to outfit it to be exactly what you want it to be. They give you plenty of options in Los Santos Customs. The same things as I said with gun customization. The only slight problem I would say is attachments for the guns didn't have as huge of a bearing as, you know, obviously it's not going to have as huge of a bearing as attachments do in a game like Battlefield. It doesn't get that deep, you know, but it does have somewhat of a change in the impact on the gun that you put them on. The movement and aiming in this game is way more seamless, smooth, and just more natural than it was in its predecessors. Even though aiming isn't exactly one-to-one sometimes, it does seem like the aim moves sometimes after you know, may stop moving the analog stick, and that may have something to do with the amount of dead zone or aiming acceleration, which you cannot change. Now, I use free roam throughout the whole game because I believe that's how the game should be played. This is just my opinion, but I believe if you use anything other than free aim, you're letting the game play for you. You are not playing the game, because this game practically has a lock-on option that aims completely for you. And, you know, I feel you might as well not be playing the game, because you're letting the game play for you if you do that. Also, the cover system works fairly well. The camera was never a problem, and the AI in the game is pretty good, especially when you rack up wanted stars. They can become extremely aggressive, I would say even more so than in previous GTA games. They have made it harder to divert the police in this game, I would say. It is more of a task and more tedious. Now let me just go back into the driving and car topic a little bit. Rockstar, as we know, has changed the driving physics and mechanics from how they were in Grand Theft Auto 4. Now, they were more practical and realistic in 4. But for me, I didn't mind. It didn't bother me because I've never been one of those driving mechanics and physics zealots. You know, I've never been completely critical of driving in any GTA game at all. It's just not really something that bothers me. I just adjust to whatever the driving style is in any Grand Theft Auto game. In 4, it was obviously different. It was more grounded. It was more realistic. I got used to it. In 5, it's obviously different. I got used to it. It's not something that I really, notice while I'm playing. Right? Some people, they play it and they notice it extremely, just not me. So the driving was not a problem for me, even though for, I guess you can say, the enthusiasts who are more tight-fisted, I guess you can say, for lack of a better word, it may bother them more than it bothers me. Now let's move on to the presentation of the game. The graphics and visuals in Grand Theft Auto 5 was a much talked about topic prior to its release because people wanted to know how it would really look, especially on this dated hardware. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a gigantic sandbox, as we know, reported to be bigger than the last 3 sandbox games made by Rockstar combined. So sacrifices had to be made in the graphics department because of this grand scale being on this extremely old hardware. But that does not mean I'm cutting them any slack. As a whole, the textures were average to mediocre, and even in some cases extremely poor. The draw distance in this game was decent. It was better than its predecessors. There were jaggies everywhere. I believe they only were able to use 2 times anti-aliasing in this game. The pop-ins were absolutely rampant everywhere, and the frame rate was not stable at 30. It could drop to lows of 22 in some instances. But on the plus side, the sound effects in the game were very well achieved. Now moving on to a few miscellaneous topics that were kind of cons that I had problems with was, one, the Grand Theft Auto 5 radio. The radio in GTA games have become this essential part of the game. It wouldn't be a Grand Theft Auto game without the radio stations and the songs. And I gotta say, even though there were definitely some hits, the songs and the radio stations weren't terrible. I think I enjoyed the radio the least in GTA 5 out of any Grand Theft Auto game. Besides from a few standout songs, it really failed to capture me. Also, this is just a minor problem. This is nothing serious. I don't know why they didn't include on the Grand Theft Auto 5 map the places where you can independently rob, like grocery stores, gas stations. You had to go around and find them yourself. And, this is not necessarily, like I said, a huge problem, but I feel as if they put everything else on the map and they tell you where everything else is. I don't know why they wouldn't tell you where those are. And lastly, I don't know if it was only me, but I was given the impression that you would be able to plan your own heist in the single player for the game. Apparently you'll be able to do it in the multiplayer though, but I was kind of disappointed when I learned you couldn't actually plan your own heist missions with the characters in the game. I thought that would have been a great addition, even if it was only a few designated spots on the map where you could plan your own heist on. That would have still been fine in my opinion. But overall, Grand Theft Auto 5 is an amazing experience. It's fun, it's ambitious, it is a must-play game. It is an absolute must-play. Rockstar has definitely crafted themselves another masterpiece with very few problems, and that's why I give Grand Theft Auto 5 a 9.5 out of 10. That is my review. Thank you for watching. Please leave all thoughts and opinions in the comment section. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.